the second workshop for the Decorative Textiles Network was held on the 16th of October at the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. And we focused in this workshop on the range of different objects, textures, colours, forms, shapes, images and texts that might have been found in the early modern domestic interior. We had a lot of different research questions, but they boiled down to two central ones. How can we study a body of objects as a whole? Not just individual things, but that whole group of objects together that might have been found in a room. And how can we find out about those objects' original colour, texture and surface? And then how can we recreate that in the present?
It's sculptural, it's something, beautifully made, but also to be worn, or maybe to be given to somebody. And this is in gorgeous condition as well. It's in very nice condition. So I brought it out as just a small piece of virtuosity.
So how do we relate this then, this kind of raised work that has the illusion of being a bouquet, to some of this raised work, and what the connections are?
Well, it's quite realistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas this is stylized to a great extent.
Yeah. There seems to be an attempt to replicate.
Well, the trial of Catherine Howard, they make references to her being given tokens in the form of silken flowers and chemical sprays like that. And of course, unfortunately, this has been against her as evidence of her unfaithfulness before marriage. But it shows that these sorts of silk flowers could be mainly given as gifts in the central romantic gift. So whether it's the same as 17th century, I'm not sure.
There's a kind of cartoonish quality about this one anyway, because the pear tree and apple tree, the pears and apples are huge. So there's not an attempt to be realistic with these, I don't think at all.
Well, there's something about scale, isn't there?
Yeah.
In these that we need to get to grips with.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether the three-dimensional leaves and sort of petals on the flowers were intended to move and sort of flutter
In the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so it's in
get a sense of panels, yeah. That's interesting.
Interestingly, some of the motifs are easier to see from a distance. So, like the unicorn, if you're close up, it's quite difficult to make it out. Whereas as soon as you come back, it's much clearer.
The palette is more like almost a crewel work palette, which you get those blue, whatever it was, green, now bluey green, as the predominant colour. But it's so dense here, isn't it?
After a really exciting day then, we had lots of different questions in our final summing up. Several of them were around the relationship between making these objects and viewing them. Were there differences in the ways in which they were viewed while they were being made and after they'd been made? What's the relationship between professional and amateur production here? We're seeing most of these objects as amateur productions. There's an alliance in several of them between different crafts, the bringing together of professional skills in making the box, for instance, and then the amateur skills of the woman who's embroidering. And how much is appreciation tied up with knowledge of the work that's involved here? What's the relationship between appreciation and admiration? Then we had lots of questions about what seeing these objects in the flesh, so to speak, told us about how they were viewed. How long did you spend looking at them? How close could you get? How many of you could get up close without getting in one another's way? What does that tell us about the kind of groups that were seeing these things? Then what about manipulating them? We wanted to touch these objects all the time, to turn them over, to look at them from a different angle. To what extent was that the way they were viewed in early modern England? And how far does viewing engage with the design as a whole? How far is it a viewing of little bits of component parts? And to what extent do you look at the object as a totality? We had lots and lots more questions, and many of them we're going to take on to the third workshop to think about again there.